I don't know if any of you had the opportunity to look at the agenda that was on the website. Just be aware that we will alter the layout of the agenda to start with public comment first. So you folks probably don't need to hear us talk about our minutes and our agenda items with all that. So thank you for being here. We also want to know that if you are going to comment, name and address up here, please. And if you did it already, great. If somebody makes a comment, if you want to add a comment to them, please be ready to put your name on there. Before we get going, my name is Tim Sprecher. We'll do a quick roll call, and then we'll get into the actual meeting. Hello. Hi. So the Tim Sprecher, Chair.
Mike Niesman, Secretary.
Craig Baker, Board Member.
Catherine Bishop.
Eric Schreiner, I'm the Facilities and Grounds Director for the city.
All right, so thank you. The other thing I'd like to do before we begin is I want to thank the people that have already put in a lot of time with this. Patricia Cicero and Jefferson County with the Mill Pond ecology, Rock Lake Mill Pond. If you had a chance to look at that on the website, that was excellent. The presentation by Eric, done with the help of Hope and I can't remember her first name. Ms. Unz?
Robin Unz.
Robin, thank you. It was very helpful. And plus the people that have been here prior to tonight's public comment. So thank you for that. But unless there's some other issue, why don't we just start with the public comments? Just be aware that there is a 3-minute time limit, which is standard for these sorts of things. And we would ask that we'll try to give you a warning when if you're going up to the edge of it, but it will be 3 minutes.
So
Yes.
It's supposed to have a public hearing when you go on the agenda, right?
Did I just speak? What
Well,
was?
there's a difference between public comment and a public hearing, right?
No. How's that for an accurate answer? I'll put it up to Catherine, who's also on the city council, and we have Greg here also.
So, Mr. Daly may modify my statement. There is technically probably a difference between public comment and public hearing. There was a notice public hearing for tonight's meeting for comment on the mill pond specifically. It could really be handled a couple different ways. We could do it up front before or with public comment, I guess, if the chair wanted to, or as a separate agenda item as noticed in the agenda. I don't know unless there's any objection from the Parks Board members. If we move up the public hearing, that's fine with me personally, but if there's an objection or motion, we could probably save it till the actual agenda item. I don't know if does that address your concern?
Well, there's a difference between public comment. Public comment, you just comment on anything, but if it gives a specific public hearing for a specific subject, it's a separate agenda item.
Yes, there is, and I think the chair was trying to move that up so everybody can get their comments in at the start.
So is the public hearing being moved up or public comment?
My understanding of what the chair was trying to do was to move up the public comment to the top of the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if that's not correct, then stop me. But
Which we're using interchangeably, basically.
So we can wait till the mill pond public hearing is up. Comment specifically to that agenda item.
Let's put to my intent of the agenda, and then we have Drake here and others that are more expert. What we'd like to do is get the public to have their comments, and we want to have that, and I'm trying to move it up to the very beginning of this meeting. As far as that, if we're calling it a hearing, then I'm going to defer to Drake or to Catherine as to what.
So it's listed as a public hearing. It's not a legal public hearing. Is one that's required under state statute that requires certain notice requirements. So you can think of it as simply a public input session. It's called a public hearing, public input, whatever you want to call it. The Parks Board is just seeking the public's opinion on the matter. So it's not a legal public hearing under statutory requirements and things of that nature. So it's being used colloquially, so the chair is seeking to move up their desire to hear your input on the mill pond.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Catherine. So that's what we wanted. We wanted to have that come up right away, and that's what I was saying. People come in, they're going to make a presentation or they're going to make a comment. I want to make sure we have that noted on there, your name and such. If someone's presentation or comment sparks another one, you have every right to get up there and make that addition. What I am asking, though, that regardless, there's a 3-minute maximum on your time up at the. So, given that, and we're all in agreement, we're going to have whoever wants to come up here first and begin their comments regarding the mill pond, specifically to the agenda item and its need for input. So, please.
Want to go first?
So please state your name and address. And
All right, it's Todd Templey, Rotary, Fremont. Oh, here's Mike's. This is some of a sizable project, and the school just sent another $45 million referendum. I know the library's gearing up for a referendum, and we got sewer rate increases. So I think this project should go to at least an advisory referendum so the taxpayers can balance what they can afford and pay for all these projects. And also there's a multi-million-dollar restaurant proposal still out there as well. And I was on the previous Parks Board when this was brought up by some township people who felt that having a docks at Bartles Beach would bring extra business to the downtown area. And I've been in the park before the study. And after cross-examination, we felt that, well, the township people are already coming into town by car. This was a nice-to-have option. There was no proof that nobody in the township was not coming into downtown because they couldn't use a boat because everyone else in town uses a car. So we asked the person to round up business owners and ask them, do you really feel this will bring in extra revenue? And would they be willing to donate money towards the project? And nobody showed up, and the matter was dropped. So I don't know where the consultant came up with those numbers, but there's no proof of anywhere of anybody saying, let's go for a drink, and saying, no, I can't go by boat, because we all can come downtown by car in the summer, and we can ride our bikes or walk. So I think that section on the economic impact is just fuzzy feeling data that was just made up. So that's pretty much it. Thanks.
Thank you.
My name is Andrew Palmer, 326 West Lake Street. And for those of you who are not aware, yes, that is on the mill pond. I've been a part of this conversation for since before Mr. Temperley was on the board and was on the council. Lived in my home at 326 since 1997. Over the 25 plus years that we've been in that home, have seen significant changes to the pond. The dam obviously has changed, just to the overall condition of the mill pond. My pier, many years ago, used to have 2.5 or 3 feet of water under that pier, allowing it for easy access in and out for kayaks, for a duck boat, for my fishing boat. I am an avid fisherman. Used to spend a lot of time fishing on my pier on the mill pond. And I can tell you that it isn't just the low water conditions that we've experienced in the last few years. There is a sediment issue. We do have, and I think the Strand study demonstrates anywhere from 0.5 foot to 4 foot of sediment in the mill pond. I am an advocate of restoring the mill pond to a deeper condition. Eric did a great job in his historical recapture of the conditions of the mill pond. And nowhere in there does it say that it's ever been dredged. Anecdotally, and I think there's many people from the community that will tell you, along with my witnessing, it has been deeper, has always been deeper, and it is in a condition where if we don't make a change, we'll continue to get shallow and continue to lose its functionality. In the summertime, again, you can't fish it. The kids' fishery, it has suffered. The community access, I think, has suffered, and the community would benefit from an advanced dredging program, as the Strand study has suggested. In closure, I have some passion around it, obviously, because it is part of my living experience every day, and I would encourage the community to view it through the lens of the people who really use the mill pond and understand that if we don't make a change, it'll continue to decline. I see people in their kayaks struggling, people on their stand-up paddleboard struggling. The weed growth and the increased sedimentation really have restricted and changed the nature of what is or could be a gem to the city of Lake Mills. So I am an advocate of a broader dredging program, and again would ask the community to look at it through the lens of the users.
Thank you. Not sneaking up on anybody.
No, I'm
Like
not.
cheese curds. Everybody's got cheese curds.
Hey, Lane Smith, 332 West Lake Street. I live next door to Andy. As a homeowner on the pond, I've lived there for 8 years. I am also a business owner with a business on the pond. I own Sunshine Brewing Company, which backs up to the pond. And from a homeowner's perspective, I went from having a great home with lakefront access to a great home with pond access. I have not been able to get my boat out in 2 years, so that's lowering my property value for sure, and lowering my enjoyment of the community. And I've also noticed a significant decrease in traffic. I can't tell you how many times I'd sit out and just watch the fishing boats go by, in and out, all summer long. This past couple of summers, not so much anymore. The parking lot, or wherever it is, right over there, is now empty compared to full. So those are people that are not downtown spending money, even if they're just getting gas at the mobile station or buying bait at the mobile station or stopping somewhere to get beverages. They're not spending money downtown. Mr. Temperley mentioned, getting the township residents here. That's not who we're talking about. We're talking about people that are coming to Lake Mills from out of town to enjoy the lake. And they can come in from the township, or they can come right downtown and go in and out of the lake from right downtown. If they want to come in, I saw this Strand presentation. I was here at the city council meeting when they presented it. I thought, what a phenomenal plan. Let's actually dredge it. Let's put some docks down here, drive people downtown. We have a whole bunch of restaurants and businesses downtown. We have a city on a lake, and we ignore it. It's like it doesn't exist. If you didn't know the lake was here when you went through downtown Lake Mills, you would never ever know they were connected, right? Which is pretty disappointing. So that's it. I'm an advocate for any type of dredging at this point. Right now, the channel is unpassable. It's literally just totally no water across the channel underneath the walking bridge, right? So nobody can get out. Kayakers, nobody can get out right now. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bob Grigas. I live at 338 West Lake Street, right next to Lane and one door down from Andy. I've been here for 12, 13 years. What I think is going to happen, and I'm sure the scientists in the room know what an alluvial fan is, and that's what the pond has become. It's an alluvial fan for all the mud and all the sediments to settle. I think in about 10 years, it's just going to be a channel, a real shallow channel all the way through. So something's got to be done. And also raise the bridge, make it so that everybody can use it, because the master crafts that Andy and Lane have are older ones that are small and that can fit through. A normal-sized boat, no way, no how. Not the modern ones. But as far as, I was reading actually one of the reports here, and they were talking about fish counts. They aren't current. There's no way those fish counts are current because there's no fish there. And it's off of our dock. There's 5 feet of sediment, and it's 8 inches deep. The water is. When we got there, we could put 11 years ago. We could put a kayak in from our shore. We can't. We got to walk through the mud to get through that. So it's a problem, and we'd like to see it, or else just get rid of the beach completely like it was to begin with, and just have an inlet like it was and have it natural. But that's not going to happen. So we've got to do something to fix it that will be okay for everybody. Plus, the downtown would really appreciate it. I think if everybody could get downtown, businesses. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Take your time, you got another minute, so you.
Yeah, make it legible.
Yeah, make it legible.
That's all I had to say. So.
Thank you. Other comment, perspectives, history?
Hi, I'm Mike Orcutt, N6608 East White Oak Drive. I'm not a city resident. I'm a township resident, but I've been in the city or in Lake Mills since 1957, and I could just say that the mill pond is the worst that I've ever seen it in my lifetime in this city. And I mean, I've even tried taking my kayak out there last year anyway, and I could barely even get into the mill pond with it, and I'm trying to turn around. So if we're going to use the mill pond, for fishing or for recreation, it really needs to be cleaned up. I mean, it's just, like I said, it's the worst I've ever seen it. So just my 2 cents on that.
Other comments? Perspectives?
Alan Corlett, until a few years ago, 948 Mulberry Street. I moved out onto Weber Road. I've lived in Lake Mills since 1978. I've seen the changes in the pond, and one of the things I think about is, and I can honestly say this, one of the things you look at the pond is a great deal of that frontage is owned by the city. It'd be city access, except it's unfishable, or for very other persons as well. So I understand it's going to be expensive if we do it, but it's a wonderful asset if we can clean it out and redevelop it so that people can make good use of it. I always thought the best place I can think, we got this beautiful lake, but think about a kid on a bike, where's he going to go fish? Trestle is great. It's a good way out and back. There's these fishing piers that, sometimes you can do some good. But the mill pond was a great place to fish. I'd go out down there launching my boat, and there's people fishing along that shoreline where it used to be the public boathouse. All that shoreline is just, it's not tenable. And I don't know when the money can come from, but we'd be doing everyone a great favor by cleaning it up.
Thank you. Yes, and address, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Without going to the podium, I ditto his last comments.
Would you care to share your name and address?
My name's Ken Pearson. I live on Phillips Lane. My property is buffered to the mill pond by the nature walk. Phillips Lane property is all on the north side, buffer the nature walk coming from behind the fire station. So I don't put a boat in anymore. But when I came here in I started coming here in 67, I moved here in 68. You could drop a 5-horse motor down to the bottom on the back of one of the boats and just cruise right out. And then as the weeds grew up, the weeds did come, but there was a wide path and it was deep enough to sustain aquatic life. And as the one gentleman said, the fishing boats aren't on the lake anymore. I used to be in that industry. And I remember 15 years ago, opening fishing day, you'd almost walk boat to boat. They were parked all the way, cars were parked all the way up to my house, trying to get on the lake. This year, I think there was 6 opening day. The walleyes have got to be getting big out there, because there's no pressure. But anyway, I remember when we drained the pond to put the fish hatchery intake line in. Now, I don't remember how deep that is underground, under the bed of the pond. But at that time, we attempted to get the pond dredged a certain distance from the boathouses that used to be there, out to the culvert and clean it out. And if I remember right, we were told we couldn't do that because the DNR said that pond is full of heavy metal. Now, I don't know if that's true or if that's not true, but that's what was allegedly going around town. Because we tried to get it dredged at that time, and we were shot down to getting it done because, quote unquote, the DNR said it's full of heavy metal. I don't know if that's true or not, but the cattails grow, they die, and they build up the sediment just a little bit every year. It comes up. It takes time, and the water behind my house in the spring was a ditch between my property and the nature trail. And that used to fill up real nice in the spring, and then it would dry out, and that was it. And we could have access in and out, which our property is in conservancy, so we can't do anything with it. But it's nice to walk on it anyway, and to get out onto the nature trail. Now it's getting difficult. I think the lake level has dropped a little. I can't attest to it because I don't live on the lake and I don't monitor the new dam. But we've spent a lot of money on the dam. We've spent a lot of money on a boat launch behind the fire station. So not to have it functional seems like a waste. How much money we gotta spend, God only knows. And is the settlement of proper value that it could be spread someplace? Because there's going to be, if you start dredging, you're going to come up with a lot of muck, and it's got to go someplace. I don't know if some farmer has a bad field that would like it spread because there's probably a lot of nutrients in that muck. I have no idea. But that's my comment. I'm sorry.
Right. No, it's fine.
So what was your last name, sir?
Pearson.
Pearson?
Like a person with 2 X's.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Just as an aside, and for tonight, for the comments and such, our plan is to hear the comments, and then in the February meeting, we'll take the comments and as best we can give you details as to the water level, the fish surveys that have been done, because we want to make sure you're getting all the information that has been made available to us, or the research that's been done, and including the studies that have been done. That, again, I don't know how many pages this is, but it is available on the Lake Mills website. So if you don't have access to that, I put it on. It's at the library, is it not?
That, and I also have, there are 3 printed copies here as well. If anybody would like to reference those during this meeting, that's fine. Otherwise, please contact me, and I can either provide you a direct link or provide a printed copy.
I think we're talking about the Strand report,
Correct.
Yes.
which was the study done in 2018.
Yes. Yes. So thank you. Other comments?
Is that general comments, Tim, or specific ones regarding the mill pond? Or?
Thank you. Specific to the mill pond, as we're trying to get your perspectives, your history. Anyone else? Any surprises out there from what people have heard? If not, I would say we can stop the comments portion of this. Maybe give you a minute to think that through, but then we'll move on to going back into the agenda itself. Yes?
I have just one quick question. I just heard about the situation that you're doing with the mill pond just the other day. I should start getting newspapers, I guess. But anyway, what is your time frame on coming up with decisions on what to do with the pond?
As far as the decision, the time frame for making a recommendation is within, I believe we're into July. So the plan is to get input here, take the input, base it on other research that we have and options, and then continue to have these meetings basically each month until we can come up with a recommendation that we're making to the city council as to what the Parks Board would recommend based on input and costs and such.
Council is the final decision?
The city council is making the final decision. And I don't know, I can just make my comment, I guess, in that a lot of this and some of the ideas about making access to the lake and raising the bridge and such are still being explored. That's, a lot of it has to do with the grants, what the state will do, what the DNR can do, and as you commented, there's lots of information out there. How factual it is, how dated it is, those are things that we're exploring. Any other comments? Any other comments from the board members?
I did receive some information. I posted this on the Lake Mills Fishing Group's website, and someone brought up that he recalled that there had been a light pole in the middle of the mill pond for ice skating, if I remember correctly. I meant to print it, of course. I couldn't figure out how to do it.
When they drag the line out to the intake out onto the lake, if it's in, then that pole is removed.
Okay. And I think most of the comments that were mirrored what we're hearing here was lamenting the lack of access for fishing and generally in favor of improving the pond itself as far as excess vegetation.
Okay. Tim?
Yes, sir.
If I may have a comment. I actually had a few residents reach out to me after the previous month's history presentation that I did, where there was approximately like a 20 to 15 year gap in recorded history that I had difficulty getting information on, and those residents reached out to me and said they had quite a few photos that were during those time periods, and they do actually have dates on them. So what I was going to plan on doing is compiling those and basically filling them into my existing presentation and give you guys a bit of an update at the next meeting so we have a more comprehensive history on the mill pond.
Thank you.
I had a question. I'm sorry, I didn't see.
Just for clarity, should they come up to the podium? Please come to the podium with your questions.
Well, it's so short. I just want to know what they're doing.
I don't know if they can hear it though, and they want to be able to.
I just wanted to know what they were going to do about the noxious weeds that have been reported. They're unbelievable.
So the-
what are they called, The other ones that turn red.
I think they can always sort
Yeah, they're just, so I was just wondering if there's a plan for that, even if you don't dredge.
The question is about the noxious weeds in the mill pond and what we'll do with those even if they don't dredge.
Right, yeah, because people have pointed it out, but nothing's being done about it.
I can provide an update. So specifically, we're targeting yellow iris as one of the more invasive species that are along the edges of the mill pond. Rock Lake Improvement Association helps pretty substantially in actually rounding those up and actually digging out the roots and tubers themselves.
Not in my yard.
I was going to say, this is on city-owned public property that's accessible around the actual edges of the mill pond. What I would like to do is, at least when those roundup periods are coming, do a public notification or at least some kind of publication so people are aware of it. So when people are actually out there from Rock Lake Improvement Association and my staff getting those noxious weeds or invasive species out, that more people are educated on how to identify them and how to mitigate it.
Yeah, I think what Bob's referring to is the water willows, as I know it, grows up, grows over, sprouts, gets roots. And because of the shallower conditions, that water willow is finding greater potential for growth out further into the summer.
Just a quick question. Is there a DNR approved dredging permit currently?
Dredging permit is specifically for the channel itself, so that's from the actual mouth of the Rock Lake to the Ferry Drive Bridge. That is an approved DNR dredging permit. I'll provide an update during my director's report on that. For the actual dredging permit for the mill pond, one has not yet been started or applied for until we have direction from City Council.
Any other concerns, questions, comments? If not, we will move on to back into the agenda. Thank you for your input. Thank you for and you're all welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. So thank you for there.
Perhaps just for recording purposes of people who are leaving, kind of let the room settle if they're going to be leaving, and then we can continue with the agenda.
Yes.
Did you take notes last meeting?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I had a little bit of a panic. So
Thank you.
Tim asked me, were you taking notes? And I said, no, you're supposed to.
Yeah, I got him. And Madison sent me an email yesterday asking for it.
Okay.
So I guess it looks like she uploaded them. Yeah, I didn't.
Next time bring beer, you'll probably get more input.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you, Mike.
Bernie, is she?
They're there. Future farmer. Are you still one?
Okay.
No, okay. Where's your blue jacket? Okay.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you for letting me speak to the chair.
Oh, absolutely.
No, absolutely.
Is someone meeting you in the back, or did you drive yourself?
I got myself.
Okay,
When
but,
I work, I have zero balance. If I pick up my sticks, I fall over.
okay, because he's on. Okay, all right.
Thank you, Dan.
But I
Thank you. Miss Catherine, did you bring the meeting minutes copies?
I did not bring copies of those. Madison uploaded them,
Yeah.
so they are, but I don't have copies printed.
Okay.
We can postpone it.
I
since
would,
don't have a way
yeah,
to-
because I don't have copy because it wasn't up when I.
Okay.
Yeah,
sure.
she just updated it today.
I printed it, but of course, it remains on my printer.
Yeah, I've had that problem too. Yeah, I didn't
Safely.
think to bring copies. I apologize.
No worries. I mean, it was all just kind of a scramble anyway.
Sure.
So you can make a motion, just postpone that until next meeting in February.
I think you can even just do it
Yeah.
as the chair. Yeah.
I think that's fine. Because it still was recorded. All right, we ready to go to your presentation? Okay, we're good. We are going to move to item number 4, which is the Parks and Forestry Director's report from Eric.
Perfect. So given the circumstances with the topics tonight, the most important thing I'd like to touch base on is we are going to begin dredging the channel next week, Wednesday. Conditions will allow as per the permit requirements, and it's going to be Wednesday the 24th. So we will have all of our turbidity barriers in place as well as all the requirements from the DNR permit to do it. With the freezing conditions that we've had this week has allowed at least as much frost as we feel confident in the ground itself. We are going to be warming up next week, but we're unsure if we're going to have enough cold temperatures to really regain doing this again this season. So we're going to take the opportunity next week to begin. Expected actual completion of this project would be between 1 day of dredging to 2 days of dredging, with a little bit more time based on actual cleanup of the work site and location itself. If we are going to be warming up, we will be running the street sweeper. At least streets department will be to do as much cleanup of the area as possible. But that's probably the largest news within the director's report. Like I said, a lot of public comments on that I've been asked for. And then regarding some of the other larger topics would be...
May I just pause you there,
Yes,
Eric?
sir.
Because this one, the mill pond channeling dredging, I'm going to, if it's okay, I'm going to just read out loud because I think it goes to some of the comments.
Okay.
And that you have the update, so you could do it too, the update about the brush woody vegetation on the south side of the channel and willow limbs on the north side of the channel will be trimmed and removed to both regain visibility, historic pedestrian footbridge, and to allow access for the dredging equipment.
Correct.
So
Yep.
that...
So on the south end of the channel, if anyone is aware, that pedestrian bridge or that half circle-shaped bridge that people reference near the shores of Rock Lake, there are multiple, I don't want to say invasives, but undesirable species that actually grow up on the south side, mostly dogwood, willows, honeysuckle, among other species as well. That is going to be trimmed. We are not treating it due to the proximity to the actual water body itself, but those will be trimmed. I believe the last time they were cut back was approximately 5 to 6 years ago. So we're just allowing the equipment to actually access the channel itself, and that is going to be an excavator that's reaching into the channel. We're not actually entering the channel with any drivable equipment by any means, but we will be removing that brushy vegetation on that south side. And then there is one specific willow tree that is kind of encroaching into the actual passageway of the channel itself that we'll be trimming. Now, given the cold weather conditions, the channel is actually fairly frozen right now at this point, so we can actually get in there fairly easy with pretty minimal disturbance. So it's a little bit more detail regarding that.
So there's nothing approved that you can use to treat the buckthorn and stuff then?
There is, but there's a certain category of actual herbicide or pesticide applicators licensing due to the proximity of aquatic species. Due to that circumstance, we're going to hold off on doing any actual treatment of those. I would prefer to use mechanical forms of removal rather than herbicide treatments.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. The next largest project that we've done actually recently is the trimming or clearance trimming along Highway B on the Tyranina right-of-way. This has been a project that's been attempted numerous times by both department staff as well as Jefferson County highway staff. It's fairly common complaints that a lot of those low-hanging limbs along Tyranina right-of-way have actually struck semi-trucks as well as other vehicles along that route. In fact, plow trucks from Jefferson County itself. Now, we did have to necessitate a lane closure on Highway B to do it, of which we worked with Jefferson County Highway Department to do. We did leave as much of the actual woody debris as we could for the sake of habitat development within Tyranina Park. So if you do actually see stalks that are still upright within the park itself, that was intentional based on habitat development. But that was a fairly substantial project that required multiple departments in cooperation and collaboration to do. And so far, I've actually got quite a few compliments regarding it from plow truck drivers as well as a couple people. At least it looks nicer for the most part. So It's been multiple years in the making to actually make it happen, and conditions allow us to do so. And then we did have 2 architect firms present at City Council last night who submitted proposals.
The proposals were submitted to council. They're
Yep.
actually going to present at the next meeting.
Correct.
So, okay,
Yep.
yep.
I'll clarify then. So we have received 2 proposals for architect firms for design of a restaurant facility at Sandy Beach. We are anticipating that to be on the February 6th agenda at this point for those architect firms to present. And lastly, with these conditions, they are perfect conditions for the building of our ice rinks. We do need 0 or sub-zero temperatures to reliably and effectively build the ice rinks. So this past week, my staff have been working basically around the clock to create those ice rinks on rotating shifts. In fact, if you do see someone in the park on your way home tonight, give them a little honk or a wave and see how they're doing out there. But they are working around the clock to get those ice rinks in place. With the warmer temperatures next week, I'm a little bit nervous that we are going to lose quite a bit of those ice rinks, but if we didn't take the opportunity to do it this week, we probably wouldn't have the opportunity for ice rinks for Knickerbocker Festival. So I'm certainly hoping that they hold out so we can have ice rinks for Knickerbocker. Other than that, I am open to any questions that you guys may have.
I think just 2. One
Yes,
was,
sir.
you said the park and athletic field scheduling. The athletic field, is that like this, the, up by the high school, that one? or-
No, that's school property. Athletic fields are specifically referencing Rotary Park, Fayetteville Park, and Wallace Park.
Okay.
So when I say athletic fields, we don't have any football fields or anything like that. We have specifically softball and baseball fields.
And then, Eric, when you're doing the removal list of all of the trees, are they being mostly replaced with native trees?
It does depend. So the actual approved list of species that we have or that we are planting, we post fairly far in advance. So our actual planting list is developed approximately 1 year in advance, as well as a removal list. We are experimenting with a few different species that are more susceptible to, I suppose, insect repellent, or I shouldn't say insect repellent, but more
resistant to insects?
Yeah, more resistant to insects. So we are experimenting with different species, and we are definitely trying to make as diverse of an urban forest as we can. That's a topic I can absolutely go into as much as possible if you guys would like, and I can provide more information on. But we have a fairly large portion of our planting list coming up in spring 2024. It is actually oak trees. Oak trees have normally not been planted too often because they're fairly difficult because we do have to break their dormancy before planting, so it's more labor intensive.
Yeah.
But we are doing a fairly large oak planting in 2024.
Thanks.
Any other questions at all?
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Eric. We are moving to the public comments, including emails piece of the agenda. So that puts it back out to the floor, and then we also have emails that we could bring to the record.
And to clarify, this is about anything?
This is about anything, thank you.
Yep, general parks.
Yep, general parks.
All right, well, I'll come up. Lisa Curler, 369 West Prospect Street. I'm a member of the City Council, and I just wanted to come up to share that I have received so many compliments this year on Commons Park and how beautiful it looks. So I just want to recognize the park staff who are working on it and who worked on all the decorations, all the local people in our community who gave funds and donations, the new electrical and all of that. It really is beautiful, and I've received so many comments from people on that. And I did see one of your guys on my way home from City Council last night at about 10 p.m. watering the rink in Commons Park. So thank you for that, for them being out there in the cold. Thanks.
Thank you.
I will say we are planning on keeping those lights in place and on through Knickerbocker Festival. So we did remove our holiday wreaths and garland from the light poles, but I'm going to keep those on in operation through Knickerbocker.
The lights are nice.
That ties into a comment I had. It's like same as about the lights. Wondered when they'd stay or when they'd come down. And so thank you for that input. The other question is, when is Santa going into hibernation? Was another comment.
From my understanding, that is tomorrow. I defer that comment to our Light and Water Department, as well as some volunteers from Schweiger Concrete as well. But from my understanding, it will be tomorrow, for sure by the end of the week.
Perhaps this is more for the light and water then. Have you heard about blue lights that they're talking about using in cities that cuts down on the...
I've heard some comments. As far as actually being able to speak on that comment, I don't have much input on it.
Any other public comments? Mike, you had a comment about an email or such you...
I had brought that up about the Lake Mills Fishing Group and their input on the...
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Yep. Anyone else with emails that they received from anyone? Eric? All right, thank you for that. Let's move to new business then. We want to, it says election of interim vice chair to serve. Actually, my understanding is we are going to speak to putting that on the agenda to have nominations. So who would be but right now we want to make sure there's not really an election, but it'd be more of nominations for the election. So there's a little correction there. But it still would be the fill the vacant term that is in there for the vice chair. So if anyone is interested in that.
I think this is my time to volunteer for that.
Very, very good.
I was about to nominate you. Nice doing it graciously.
So thank you, McKay. So that, be aware that you are now noted that we will
next meeting
have the actual nomination and voting at the next meeting. So thank you for that. Now the new business B, discussion recommendation to accept the Rotary Club donation for Rotary Park Pickleball court resurfacing, and that included the quote and the Rotary Club donation application, which again was online, but we also have copies of it. So do you want to speak to that?
Yep, absolutely. So I will be presenting this on Scott Tellefson's behalf from Rotary Club. He was not able to make it tonight, but both Scott as well as Melissa Wagner have been working quite a bit with me on this topic, as you guys know, with pickleball. Rotary Club have very, very substantial amount of donations received within a very short amount of time for this actual court surfacing. The court surfacing itself is going to be two colored, they called it the kitchen versus the, I forget what the actual section is of pickleball, I apologize. If there's any avid pickleball players here, I believe there's a kitchen and the other term that I'm quite not familiar with. But this surfacing is fairly aggressive in texture, has the outlines of the courts themselves, so they're actually sectioned out courts. Makes it much easier to play and easier to identify when the ball is in play and where the ball is in play. Now, the only downside is it is fairly expensive, which is why I solicited Rotary Club to actually pursue donations for it. They did not quite meet the total allotment for the quote itself for the surfacing, but they were very, very close. So on the donation application, you can see it's $15,800 is what Rotary Club would like to donate to the city for the installation of this court surfacing. I will cover the difference with either operational budget funds from my department or leftover project funds we have from the paving projects from the previous year. So that $2,200 will be compensated by the city to actually have this surfacing installed. I definitely think it would improve the quality of play as well as the ease of play for the actual courts themselves. And if we are actually going to have this installed, now would be the time to do it before we actually install our permanent nets and do further development of the area. So currently right now we have a blank slate of just paved surfacing. It would be very easy for this contractor to actually complete the work for the surfacing at this time. The expected completion date would be at some point within April if we do move forward tonight with the recommendation. And at that point, net installation would follow after court surfacing itself. Now, the unknowns that I didn't know at the time of this was the actual maintenance required within the actual surfacing itself. I spoke to different municipalities who have had surfacing installed as well as the school district. And the biggest issue was pavement cracking. We actually do a 4-inch asphalt rather than 2 to 3-inch asphalt that a lot of athletic fields have. So we have a fairly substantial asphalt base on here, which, at least in my opinion, would limit the possibility or potential more so of cracking within the asphalt. But it is something that does degrade based on the amount of play on the court. So obviously, the more foot traffic you're going to have in a certain area of the court, the faster it is going to wear.
Actually, you're talking about the asphalt cracking.
The surfacing on top of the asphalt. So one of the issues with that surfacing, like I said, is if the asphalt cracks, you have to both fill in the crack as well as resurface the surfacing itself. The expected lifespan of this is up to 10 years, dependent on the amount of play. At that point, it does begin to fade, and you start to lose that traction qualities of the surfacing itself. So it is expected to be anywhere, at least from what I can tell, 8 to 10 years, 10 years maximum on the surfacing. At that point, it would have to be resurfaced, but the cost would be less because the court perimeters are already there. It is already measured. One of the associated costs for the surfacing is the actual boundary striping and marking of these courts. So I believe it would be a less of a cost at the time of resurfacing, but at some point, if we install the surfacing and we would like to pursue this area for play, it is expected that we will have to resurface it within a lifespan of 10 years.
Catherine?
I'm totally ignorant. I'm thinking like spray in bed liner for a truck.
It's
so if
kind of
there's
like
a crack, can you like just roll some like rubber stuff over the crack, or do you have to resurface the whole court?
You would be able to repair it. There are associated repairs, yes. Now I'm talking about the entire lifespan of this court.
Okay.
Within 10 years, people have referenced pretty substantial fading to the point to where it has used its usable lifespan, basically, in the surfacing itself.
I just want to make sure you're saying like if there's a small crack,
It can be
you have to
repaired.
resurface the
Yes.
whole thing. Okay.
Yep, you are
Understood.
correct.
Thank you.
The question, just for clarification for the board and for the public, where are these pickleball courts going? Are they additions or are they taking the place of something?
So the area that I'm referencing is specifically on the north side of Rotary Park, behind the basketball courts. So that area was repaved for the intent to have permanent pickleball courts. Previously, they were temporary pickleball courts. You'd have to bring your own net. If you guys recall, I believe in 2022, we actually accepted the donation from Rotary for the permanent nets. We have had those on hand, waiting for the actual pavement to be done and completed. That has since been completed. This is one additional improvement to this play area. So either way, there will be permanent pickleball courts in place. This is just in addition to basically an improvement of the existing play surfaces.
Okay.
Ms. Catherine?
What is the 8,500 listed on the quote?
The 8,500 was a quote to just do the boundary striping and perimeter lining. So if Rotary Club did not receive enough donations to cover the difference, or if they received less than expected donations, we would at least pursue court boundary striping and lining to delineate the actual court perimeters. The 18,000 total cost would be both lining of the courts and boundaries as well as this internal multicolored surfacing. Now, like I said, the difference is $2,200. Rotary Club raised $15,800.
And Eric, when will you have more detail as to the ongoing maintenance costs?
I would say to the point to when we need to have maintenance that's actually done on the courts. It's definitely hit or miss based on the amount of use. Like I said, it's very, very dependent based on the area of where these things are being used. That, like I said, maintenance lifespan is approximately 8 to 10 years maximum, is what I've heard. I haven't heard anything less than 6, but that was substantial amount of competitive play that was actually on some of these surfaces, like NCAA courts as far as tennis and everything else as well. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, are we at the discussion recommendation regarding Parks Board involvement and action following public comments on the mill pond?
Do we want
I
to do
believe we have
accept
to
the donation?
complete.
I'm sorry?
You have to accept the donation and that.
Correct. Yeah, we're at the point where you guys need to make a recommendation to move
Where am I
forward with
missing
the donation.
The updated one.
So-
Donation, recommendation, accept.
Okay.
Tim, I just drafted very straightforward language that would recommend accepting the donation if somebody wanted to make a motion on that basis, so it's all written down and it can go to the council. That's only if somebody wants to do it. If we like the language, if we don't like the language, obviously we can amend it and change it. I just wanted to have something to look at on paper,
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
similar to what we did last time, so.
And just to inform you guys, in order to accept the donation, there has to be a recommendation for Parks Board, and then the donation does have to be approved by City Council to receive funds. So there would be a secondary step involved if you were to make a recommendation to approve.
So I think the language here does that, but I just want you guys to help me make sure.
It is for pickleball courts.
Correct.
So I'm going to put yes for myself.
We have to make our motion first.
Oh, you got to do the motion first. All right, so a motion to accept it as written,
Second.
second by McCray. So I am saying yes. Mike, you voting yes? McCray?
I vote yes.
Yes.
Bernadette is absent. It says abstain, but what, so I put nothing for her? And then,
Yeah, I think it would be nothing because she can't even abstain.
right,
Yeah.
all right. And Catherine, you said yes?
Yes.
All right,
Yes,
thank you
thank you.
much. So I will sign the resolution or the recommendation to accept.
And it's adopted, right? We should circle that.
So we are adopted, yes.
Perfect. So just so all of you are aware then, I would plan to take this recommendation to City Council at the next meeting on February 6th.
And then, do you take it or?
Does this go to the,
I think it would go to the city clerk or
Yeah,
Madison.
this will go to Madison.
Yeah.
Okay. Want me to give it to her?
yes.
Part of the minutes.
I will say, thank you very much, and I know Rotary Club will be very thankful for that. And at least in my opinion, I've never seen that amount of money donated that quickly and raised that quickly for a single topic item. So pretty phenomenal fundraising efforts on Rotary Club's behalf.
Well, thank you for your involvement in that, Eric, and thank you to Rotary and any person that is part of the Rotary. Thank you for that. So, you people that are better at following agendas than said chair.
You need larger print.
I need larger print, yeah, that I do, or younger eyes. I think the larger print is going
That's
to be
hard to
more,
get.
yeah,
Hard to
going to
get.
be more appropriate. So now are we at the discussion, discussion recommendation regarding the Parks Board involvement and action following the public comments on Mill Pond?
Correct.
So I'll put this out to whoever wants to start the comment.
I'll start with the easy one. I would like to see Mr. Schreiner's updates with the new photos. I think that would be super interesting and really fill in some details that we're missing. Let me get back to my other notes here for other stuff. Let's see. One of the first, sorry if I can just
Keep on going,
one more.
yes,
One of
thank
the
you.
first comments we had was whether or not this should go to advisory referendum. There are some statutory requirements where a project would have to go to referendum, and I think it's not the next thing we need to address, but later on we do need to decide if the dollar amount would require that, and that may require some input from the city attorney on what ordinance requirements we have to meet for that. So it's just a future agenda item that I think should not be forgotten about.
Okay, I have a question on that one. So will we basically go with our inflation-adjusted figures from the Strand report? Is that what we're going to proceed with largely?
Well, that was just really for the dredging. Did those inflationary numbers include the docks proposal? I don't recall.
They do, yes.
They do,
So
okay.
that OPCC, that's, let me see here, opinion of probable construction cost, that was done by city staff and city advisors. I mean, we can have more accurate sections actually updated to that. This was just a percentage calculation for inflation, so there could be a more accurate price update from 2018 to 2024. But this does basically include all the available options that were previously listed within the Strand survey. So that includes the Ferry Drive Bridge expansion or raising. So every option listed in the Strand survey was in the OPCC.
I think we just, when we're crafting our recommendations towards the end, getting that final piece from the city attorney to say, like, in our recommendation, this dollar amount for the project we're recommending does hit the threshold where the council should seek an advisory referendum or it does not.
Any other comments, reactions to the?
I guess just for my education. So, Catherine, if it doesn't meet that criteria where you have to have a referendum, and we recommend X number of dollars be spent or the project, the city council then, if they decide to accept it, they just build it into the budget overall. They don't have to specifically go up for a referendum on it. Is that what that boils down to, kind of?
This is where I'd also ask the city manager for more clarification. I think the city council could, at its discretion, go to a referendum on theoretically anything. That's my understanding. But there is, within our city ordinance, also a threshold dollar amount for certain projects. And I'm not clear on the nature of those projects, if this would be something that triggers that plus the dollar amount. So that's where I would really need more input from city staff to advise this board on that before we start making those recommendations one way or another. Sorry, Jake.
No problem. Good evening. My understanding, the local requirement for an ordinance is taxpayer funds in excess of $500,000 for a city building.
Oh, that's what I wasn't sure.
I don't know that it applies to other general infrastructure projects that would occur. I think it's specific to a building. The city council can choose to go for an advisory referendum on almost anything it would like. It just has to provide 70-day notice to the county prior to the election in which it would like to appear on the agenda with a resolution stating what the language should be. So that's additional information on referendum. We could consult with the city clerk, but that's my understanding of it. If there weren't going to be another election, if an election wasn't going to occur and we wanted to, for example, have a referendum, on a February, like the February primary that's not occurring, I believe there would be costs associated with that because there would be printing of ballots that wouldn't otherwise occur. So there can be costs associated with going to referendum that we would have to confirm prior to making that decision.
Thank you, Drake. You might as well sit real close, Drake. We might be having. That's why I get your steps in. McCray or Mike? Any Parks Board involvement or action following the public comments?
I would say at next meeting is kind of when you guys are thinking of doing basically an update or figure out what you're going to do as far as compiling those public comments.
Well, the other thing I think an action we want is to get at the issue of whether or not the DNR did say there was heavy metals in there. Is that factual? Is that an issue? The other thing I think we want to get in action is the actual the work that Patricia's group did on the ecology of the mill pond, and it says that the aquatic and the fish surveys, I believe it said 2017 through July of 2022, and I would say for their expertise, these are point intercept surveys, DNR protocols, 103 survey points. As to the accuracy of those and what was presented before, but I would say in the realm of public, something that's 2 years recent is fairly accurate, unless there's been a huge influx of sediment or something like that, which again I'm not aware of. The issue of the depth of the water, I think that we should find out more detail of that, the historical data and trends.
In regards to that, our diagnostic system, at least our dashboard system, does collect water levels, basically at daily minimums and maximums since the dam was installed in 2018. So I can go back to 2018 with very accurate lake level data. Anything previous to that, I wouldn't be able to provide in any accurate amount. But 2018 to now, current, I can provide that. In fact, if you go on our website, there is a dam management page or dam management policy page, at the first of every month, the previous month's totals for daily lake levels are posted.
Okay. How does that figure into this? I thought they were more concerned about how deep it had been, the mill pond.
You're saying specific depths of the mill pond?
Well, it's charted in here as the different depths that was done in 2022.
Okay. So then I'll clarify then, what's actually being measured is the actual lake levels itself, not specific to just the mill pond. However, it is related. Obviously, a lowering lake level is going to also lower the depths of the mill pond as well.
Yeah.
And actually, I think in that Strand report, they mentioned not finding heavy metals, if I recall. That's what, remember they talked about where you could put the sediment.
Yeah.
I think it would be a clarifying point at this point.
Yes.
We can do the additional research, and then at next meeting in February, we can clarify what the actual finding was, if there were results of heavy metal tests or not.
And I don't, the other thing I'd like to know is, was there actually a survey done in the mill pond for the fish? Because I know in the one it was a near shore survey on Rock Lake, and it says including the mill pond. So I'm going to get some details there that would maybe actually speak to the mill pond itself and whatever.
So this goes back
sunfish
to
and bass and whatever else still in there.
So this goes back to wanting a fish biologist to present, basically on behalf of the DNR. They were going through staffing issues as well, but I still am attempting to have a DNR representative present at our February meeting. And then, again, I still have yet to have an actual confirmation on that. But hopeful that we'll have a presentation from a DNR representative specifically referencing fish populations and habitat for February.
Yeah, I think that would be interesting because what I thought we heard at one of the other presentations was there's still a significant diversity of wildlife, of aquatic wildlife, but what the citizens are telling us is you can't fish anymore, there's no fish. Mm-hmm. Why is there that discrepancy? So I'd really like
So
to
you're saying the difference potentially in habitat development versus actual recreation? Like if you're
right,
fishing.
true. And I don't know if what you fish for, maybe this is what you're saying, is different from what actually lives there.
Okay.
Either
way, the person that I would reference that information on would absolutely be a fish biologist from the DNR.
Okay.
And that's definitely who I would go to for that information, and I'd like them to present.
I would just comment to Mike's point, so lake levels are relevant if you have a solid bottom. Water depth is more relevant as we discuss it in the mill pond because of the effect of the sedimentation and how it limits the actual level of navigable water or fish access water, if you will. So it's true water depth from surface to soft muck or true bottom.
I don't want to perseverate on the heavy metals, but assuming that the Strand report said they didn't find any, is that recent enough that we can say fine, or are we going to have to do some more testing? Any idea, or the DNR would tell us that?
The Schreiner report does list all the metals and all the organic materials that were taken from the sediment sample.
Right, and I think that they didn't find much.
I mean, at that point, I would basically reference an expert in the actual field itself and see if those 6 years of passing has expected any change or anything like that. Whether it requires resampling, I'm not quite sure.
That's the only thing I'd want to know. The example given by the comment was that seemed like it was a long time ago when they first wanted to dredge the pond. The reason given in quotes was heavy metals, but the Strand report is more recent, and I'm inclined to rely on a paid consultant's report and opinion on that, absent what you were just saying, any other big event, which I don't think we've heard of in the last 6-7 years. So I'm inclined to just rely on the Stern report at this point.
No, unless, exactly you said, Catherine, unless there's something that we didn't know about, some alluvial thing or wash of some accident that.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting that we had, but that I was just wondering if, when we go to the DNR, if they will say you need something more. More recent. But that's up to them.
So you think that, I want to make sure I understand that the DNR would come back, if that was the original reason years and years ago, the DNR would continue to rely on that
No, I would ignore
reasoning.
I think that original reason might have been hearsay. I'm thinking if the Strand report they felt needed to be updated, but that's up to them.
Right,
not
okay,
us.
yeah.
The other thing, an action that I would like to at least ask and get answered is, I'm looking at the samples of the Rock Lake Mill Pond depth in the contours, and there's pockets where it's, 3 feet deep, 5 feet deep, shoreline mostly 1.5 foot around there. I'm looking at what, in this picture of some of the docks and piers that go out there, it seems that most of them get out there at least to 2 feet. But again, these are just what I'm seeing from this overhead. This is from Patricia's, Cicero's report. But I guess what I'd like to do is to see if there's a trend to these depths and these contours that historical, because this is from 2017 and 2022, and actually, according to this, the maximum depth is gone up, according to this research. So I just wonder if we could go back farther than 2017 to see where are the pockets, where is it going? Because looking at this, there's going to be a channel there now of 5 feet deep and 50 feet wide from the boat launch to the culvert. Is that one of the proposals?
That is one of the options within this, the feasibility study,
Right.
yes.
So I would just like to see a little more of a trend, because we're hearing that it's filling in and getting more shallow.
So let me ask a clarifying question then. You're specifically looking for an updated lake contour map as far as?
If there is one, or historically, to see, is it actually, are these pockets, are these contours changing over time?
You want like the climate pattern for the contours.
What?
Climate, it's the pattern over time.
Right.
Not the weather.
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
But I'm looking at the depth of it coming off, again, the Sunshine Brewery spot. It's a pretty good grade there. It drops down pretty quickly to 3 feet, and then there's down to 4 feet. And I just wonder if that's been changing.
So it's information I don't have on hand. It would just require additional research, and I can relay at the next meeting.
This is online.
Color printed, which I don't have.
Oh, sure, I can get you one.
So I think a lot of these things are at least easily accessible data. At least most of the things that we have been discussing, I've been able to find some resources on. But I can look specifically regarding lake contours, and I am sure there are people who will be able to reference that and provide the data for me. So
what I'm looking for is anything that we have a comment on or a concern about. I want to make sure that we have some research and some data to say, you're right, thank you, or here's what the data shows.
Tim, the other big comments here across the board were really support for putting in docks to access downtown for boaters.
Yes.
So I think one day that needs to be its own separate agenda item and discussing, the cost, how many docks, what does that look like, what kind of boats do we actually want in the mill pond, how is that going to affect homeowners versus businesses. It's just a deeper conversation. That's a much larger undertaking than simply dredging.
Oh, yes. And that was part of that Strand proposal, is that, and I don't remember exactly how many docking, lack of a better term, stations they had in there and the related costs, but I know they wanted to have sort of like a floating access that could go to the bigger boats, even to the pontoons.
that goes into a previous document that I provided you guys from Chief Russ. If you're specifically referencing boat lifts, boat docks, or piers, it does also need to be considered that there would be a portion of the fire department that would be beneficial to them. So that would be within the same discussion.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to have that be an agenda.
Yeah,
item.
Catherine, we can put that as part of the agenda to make that a separate item and kind
Yeah,
of
just
cost.
because I think it's such a big portion that it warrants its
Yes,
own discussion.
very
Thank
much.
you. Yeah.
Well, also in that, the discussion that we've had, or hearings before, is about raising the Ferry Street. So there was access for boats such as pontoons, and we didn't go on much more than that, except for we'd probably want to get costs from the DNR, or not the DNR, the Department of Transportation and such, as to what that would entail and whether or not it was even feasible based on current costs and such.
That'd be wider too, then, get pontoons in.
So there were three options that were provided within that feasibility report, specifically on Ferry Drive. I think it was on page 57. Yes, page 57 specifically listed the Ferry Drive options. Like I said, we did do updated pricing in that OPCC document specifically for Ferry Drive. Now, that isn't the most accurate. Like I said, that was just an inflation percentage increase, not a specific involvement from DOT or anything like that. So we have a rough estimate on expected costs.
Did you number yours yourself? Because I don't have page numbers on mine. That Strand report? Unless I stapled over them.
I normally reference the electronic version, honestly, Mike, and the electronic version has page numbers listed.
Okay.
But it's near the end of the document. The bolt lifts and piers, et cetera, are also near the end of that document itself. So some of the last pages within it.
Well, and this might be a completely aside when it comes to if we are speaking of raising the Ferry Drive, so boasting it under, I'm going to guess there are people that will have some input on the aesthetics of that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Correct.
Any other recommendations regarding our involvement and actions following the comments, not just tonight, but also what we've had up to this point, besides what is mentioned?
I would say basically at this point, as long as we have a somewhat concise update or consolidation of the public comments at the next meeting, I would say that would be appropriate in whatever direction you guys would like to take from those public comments received tonight.
Okay. And I'm going to also propose that we look at whatever feedback we get from online or some social media, because tonight we didn't hear people that were talking about, can sort of leave it as it is. But I know I've had people making that comment.
My preposition at this point is once this video is complete of this meeting, I would like to do a social media post as well as post the link to the video to this meeting on our website. At that point, I assume there would be comments coming within people viewing that video afterwards, and we can use that as also source material.
Yeah, all right. I just think that's wise.
Yeah. That would be like on the Lake Mills community page and all the rest then.
Yeah, it would be on the, I forget what our actual Facebook name is, Dave, I apologize.
City Government.
Yes, City Government TV, and then we normally cross-post to the community network when we
that's
post
where
it.
they really.
Correct. So it would be labeled something like, if people would like to get more information, or maybe some people weren't aware of a public hearing, and maybe some people didn't actually want to attend in person tonight, they can still comment on an actual social media post.
And I think Drake left. I think we would be wise to put a piece in the Lake Mills Leader if they'll publish it as to where we are and what our next.
Okay.
So they could look at that video and get that information.
Okay.
And where they can get this. So like the one gentleman said, he doesn't have get the paper anymore. Mm-hmm. But if we get it at the library or something like that, I think that would be.
We can have an ongoing excerpt, at least a recurring or updating excerpt within the Lake Mills Leader. I know we did include it in 2 separate publishings requesting public comment or at least involvement in a public hearing, and I can continue to do that in an updated poster publication.
I just think that would be wise, just so people don't think that they don't have access to things.
I find that somewhat interesting, actually, if you posted per regulation like we did, and you've been very aggressive in submitting for public comment. People who have an opportunity to come here and speak tonight. Mm-hmm. It feels a little bit redundant, but I trust the board's judgment.
So I just want them to be able to know where they can find the information in the comments.
I understand.
7 times, 7 different ways. And they still won't get it, but.
At some point, you can't fix it.
I understand. I just want to say we can do this. So thank you. Moving, any other comments on the new business? Hearing none, let's go to 7, which is announcements. Any announcements? Thank you.
I suppose I could give an announcement. I don't know if this would qualify for one, but we are expecting this to be, at least the next meeting for Parks Board, to be within the council chambers. The issue for tonight was there is court up there. The actual scheduling, it's not conducive of one after the other. But we are going to do a trial run, at least in council chambers, for the February meeting.
All right, thank you. Any other announcements? One of the other board members was not able to make it tonight, but Erica is going to try to get her up to speed with some things sometime next week.
Mm-hmm. Yep, so in regards to that, Bernie did miss last month's meeting as well. So what I'm going to do is run her any supplemental information during my presentation that she wasn't able to receive just from the slides. So I'll go over that with her, and then I will do a summary, basically, of the public comments received from this meeting, as well as have her watch the actual video from this meeting as well. So hoping to touch base with her next week.
And do you know when that is going to be?
I don't have a scheduled date yet. I haven't actually spoken with Bernie, but what I can do is I can let you know as well as the meeting date and time. And if you're able to come, by all means, you can join, but we wouldn't be able to have an actual quorum at that meeting.
Right, as I say, we got to be careful of that. All right, so thank you. Moving to 8 recommendations for future agendas. One is that, I'm sorry.
If I could add something during the section 8.
Yes.
My proposal, or what I would like to bring up at the next meeting, is we are required by ordinance, actually the meeting date and time is written within ordinance for Parks Board meeting, which is the third Wednesday of the month at 5:30. Currently, if we are going to be moving forward with the actual miking and recording of these meetings, this is quite a bit of setup as far as Dave's behalf and other city staff's behalf, substantial amount Dave's behalf. But if we are able to use council chambers, we already have the technology and all the setup already there. I think it would be more effective and streamlined to actually continue to hold our meetings in city council chambers. However, currently there is a scheduling impact on the third Wednesday of the month, which is always court. What I would like to do is propose a new date and time and propose a potential ordinance change to change the ordinance for the scheduled meeting dates and times for Parks Board, so we do not have scheduling conflicts and can move forward with the city council chambers as our designated meeting location. Currently, I am looking at the second Monday of the month. I think 5:30 is a fairly conducive time for everyone, but I'll let the board members speak to that. But there are no reoccurring meeting conflicts or schedules for council chambers, again, on that second Monday of the month, and we'll have it as a second or separate agenda item in the February meeting for Parks Board to specifically discuss it.
Still at 5:30?
I mean, you guys can absolutely going to be a deciding factor. You are the ones who are going to be able to decide that for the most part. That would be my recommendation, and we'll include it in further discussion at February's meeting. But that's what I'm proposing, at least for a new agenda item for February.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. The other thing about the future agenda is I think we might want to talk about the needs for the detail that are in the minutes. What needs to be in the minutes, because if it's all being recorded, I'm just wondering if we should have some discussion on the agenda as to what kind of detail the minutes need.
Okay. I think we should get input. I mean, I look upon our consumers as the public, but also city council. So what they would like, if they prefer to have well, anyway, we ask them.
But I think that just put it on the agenda for discussion, and we can go from there. The other thing we want to put on the agenda is the vote for the nomination of Mr. Baker as the vice chair.
I'm confident of your chances.
Doesn't look like there's much competition.
And then the restaurant details, if the meeting is on February 6th for City Council, and there's going to be presentations from the architect firms at that meeting, I'll be able to provide an update for restaurant details after the presentations at City Council.
All right, thank you for that. Any other agenda items? Catherine?
I was looking at my notes from the last meeting, and we had a couple of things for the February meeting, so I'll just reiterate those. One of those was a formal decision recommending changes to other parks fees. Another one was a discussion and or decision on making a recommendation to the council on ordinance changes, particularly related to abandoned property on city parks, related to those abandoned boat lifts.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
We absolutely can have it for February for sure. However, I would definitely require police department involvement on Chief Schroeder's behalf as well. For the remainder of January, I am going to be working on doing our updated dam management policy as well. So if we could, I don't want to keep pushing agenda items down the road, but based on time and hopefully compiling the Mill Pond presentation, or at least the Mill Pond public comments, if we could potentially have that on a March agenda item, just because I have some prior research to do and work with police department. So that would be my request, if we could.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's part of the whole discussion and agenda items is the input that we've gotten. I don't think we should just keep on looking for more and looking for more. I think we take what we've got, unless there's some things, but let's coalesce it and go from there.
You know, on the mill pond.
On the mill pond stuff, yeah.
I think we had that.
Yep. So we just want to make sure that we're not putting out there that we need more comment per se. I think we just need to take what we've got and
discuss and digest.
Yes. But I was just going to the processing public comments kind of thing. Anything else? Anything else, Catherine? Thank you for that. Oh, we need to approve minutes from December and also approve minutes from tonight.
Yes, so I thought I sent you those, but it may have been your city email. So I don't know if you are accessing that, but I did send them to Madison, and it looks like she did update them. So
yes.
Do you need, should I resend them via email to you, or how do you?
My city email does not work, so Madison has been.
I did not know that.
Yes.
Okay, got it. So.
And David's been trying to help, but it just didn't work.
Well, you just have to stop by and all.
Okay. All right.
So Madison has them now, so.
Wonderful. I can just ask them to send them to me.
Perfect.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry about that. Yep.
No worries. How would you know that? It's just like.
I sent it, and once I send it, I forget it, so.
Yeah, I hear you. But yes, we want to have those looked at.
Yeah, definitely, okay.
The other thing, I think we are ready to, meeting will be 5:30. It will be upstairs.
Mm-hmm. Unless told otherwise, unless there's some extra circumstances, but we are planning on using council chambers.
And do I have that date right? It was the 21st. I know I goofed up the last time on a Wednesday.
Yep. Yes.
So it is 21st. Right. Thank you. All right. Well, other than to say stay warm and enjoy the.
Do we have to vote on adjournment, or you just call it?
I think you just call it.
If I can end with a comment, given the warmer temperatures next week, if anyone wants to ice skate, please do it this weekend. My guys put a lot of work into it this week, and they're still going, so please use them this weekend while they're still there, and fingers crossed they last as much as possible.
Could you use soft water to make that ice, so some nicer?
As long as we didn't use heavy metals, Mike.
Oh, God. All right. So we are formally adjourned at 6:58, I believe.
That precisely.